Take this wiper arm off, take the cap off, just use a pick or a straight blade screwdriver. Just get underneath the cap, just like that. Then use a 13mm socket. Just hold the arm while you're taking the nut off, and be careful, don't crack the windshield or anything. Loosen that up. Then use a 13mm socket. Just hold the arm while you're taking the nut off, and be careful, don't crack the windshield or anything. Loosen that up. Before you take the arm off, just take a piece of tape or a piece of chalk and just index where the wiper is so you can put it back where it was when you're done. Then grab the arm, you're gonna push down and lift it, go back and forth. You should be able to break it free. And slide that off. And do the same with the other wiper arm. Slide it off. And grab this weather stripping and just slide it off. Set that aside and just lift up on the cowl. There's another piece of the shroud right here. You need to pry up on that. Just try to get that out if you can. It just clips in. And same on this side, you have that little piece. You can slide that out. Set that aside. And just slide it out. Disconnect this connector right here. You can just push down on this tab and slide it out. And take these two bolts out. There's one right here and one over here. Use a T30 socket. Just be very careful, don't crack the windshield. Take this bracket out right here. Use a 10mm socket. Take these two bolts out. Take this 10mm nut off, just use a 10mm socket. And on the other side, take this 10mm bolt out, same 10mm socket. Just move these wires out of the clips. And you grab this plate and just slide it up and out of the way. You don't have to pull it out completely, just out of the way. Now we can grab the wiper, transmission and motor assembly. Just try to slide it out. There we go. And it slides right out. So get these two transmissions lined up next to each other so you kind of know what you're doing when you go to take this apart and put it back together. So there is a bracket underneath here that you can see it's pretty much parallel with this linkage right here. What we're going to do, very carefully, watch your fingers, rotate this, and there's a stop over here. Rotate that to the stop. Then we're going to take that nut off. Use a 13mm socket. Take that nut off. And just gently, you don't want to spin the motor at all, but gently take this arm off. You might have to pry it up. And just use a small pry bar. Just like that. Now take a T30 socket, take these screws out. And just take this plate off. Moved the new transmission in place. And put the plate on. Put the screws in. And tighten them down. Now we want this arm lined up how we took it off of the motor, right up against that stop. And put the nut on. And tighten down the nut. Then you can rotate the transmission. Again, careful of your fingers. And just have that right in the position it was when we took it apart. Now, reinstall the assembly. Just slide it back in the way it came out. There is a pin on the back of the motor that you need to try to slide into the grommet back there. And while you're doing that, try to have this over here lined up. That looks good there. Now I'll put this bracket back in. And tighten these up. And get these bolts started and snug them down. Now plug this in, and even though the key is not in the ignition, just be careful, watch your fingers, just in case something turns. We're good. Now we can slide this piece back in. If the gasket fell off of this one, then slide the gasket back on. And there's some clips right there where that goes. Try to get that in between the clips. And now we can re-secure the wires. Put the nut on here and the bolt on the other side. And tighten them down. Now reinstall the cowl. Just slide it in position. And it kind of zippers in right below the windshield. Move it up and just push it down. And slide these pieces back in position. Might be a little bit tricky. Just try to get underneath there and clip them in. And put the weather strip on. At this point, it's a great idea to turn the key on the ignition and cycle the wipers one time. Make sure you watch the wiper transmission stop, and then you can stop and make sure they're in the park position. Then turn the key off, and now you can install the wiper arms. Line this up, and then line the wiper blade up with the window where you made your mark or put your tape, and install the nut. And tighten it down. And you can torque this nut to 15 foot-pounds. And put the cap on. And you can do the same with the other wiper arm.